We are back from summer break, so we resume the Bart and Dennis talk format. I hope you're as excited about it as I am. We briefly talk about Bart's research because he just published an article, and it appeared in a journal that is actually quite good, but it is paywalled and published by Elsevier. We then talk about the upcoming open science mandate that Coalition S is trying to establish in Europe. Coalition S includes some of the biggest funding agencies in Europe, like the Wellcome Trust and the European Research Council. Yet, a lot of scientists seem to still be blissfully unaware. Just as a lot of German researchers don't seem to care a lot about their universities cancelling subscriptions to Elsevier. The publishing company had a survey done on affected German researchers and, well, I don't think the outcome really reflects the message Elsevier would have liked. And in the end, we have a brief news item that may be a reason to have some hopes for a carbon-neutral future. But before we jump in, I'd like to ask you for a favor. Please send me your feedback. What makes the podcast interesting and valuable to you? What kind of content would you like to hear more about? Do you even have a specific topic you'd like me to address? Is there something you generally dislike, or maybe even something you particularly like? Let me know. You can send me messages on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram at Sci4Progress. The DMs are open. Or through email, info@scienceforprogress.eu. And if you think more people should definitely listen, why not give us a good rating and write a nice review on your podcast app. Go and share our information in your social circles. As always, the full conversation, which also includes additional topics, is available for patrons on www.patreon.com/sci4progress. And you will find a summary and additional information in our show notes on www.scienceforprogress.eu. My co-host is Bart Görten. I am your host Dennis Eckmeyer, and this is episode 33 of the Science for Societal Progress podcast. Hey Bart, how you doing?
Fine. It was a particularly good week. We published a big paper. The uni took my photo for the press release. It was pretty nice. And tomorrow my student Robert is going to give his defense on his PhD. A lot of things coming to an end and hopefully to a happy ending.
That's the same Robert that won the t-shirt in our live episode, right?
Yeah, he still didn't choose a design. I think that says something about the designs you uploaded.
What? They're fantastic designs. Everybody should wear those t-shirts.
Maybe send it. Yeah, sure. So, and then I guess by the time this is going to be out, Robert will already have defended his PhD thesis, which I'm quite proud of.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yay.
Like an hour before I saw the last test defense was pretty amazing. He does a good job.
Nice. And does he have a place to go to after? You don't have to say where he's going, but just if he has like another job.
I think he has
up.
quite open plans, and there were some suggestions of other professors, but he is not really sure if he wants to stay in science.
Mm-hmm.
As most people are at that phase of their career, because it's so. If I would have to give advice to people leaving science, I think directly after the PhD is a pretty good option.
Yeah,
because you're young and the industry likes to have your minds formable in their ways. No, but just if you're going to be hired by a big company, this is going to be the best phase of it, as you can be trained for the job and then they can get maximum years out of you. To your dismay, we didn't publish open access this time.
What?
In a preferred journal of yours, we published in Current Biology.
Boo.
But it has a pretty good impact factor, though.
Don't get me started with that again.
Anyhow, yes, but still we published there. I have to admit that.
Okay. So what was the paper about?
So you remember that last year we published something together from Diego's PhD about rhodopsins in proprioception. So rhodopsin is the molecule that makes you see, and we found it in touch sensation. And this year we published that basically the chromophore, so the molecule that does the seeing in rhodopsin, is actually not needed for that.
What?
So opsins had a function.
For what? It's not necessary for seeing?
No, for the mechanoreception part.
Oh, okay.
So in essence, we found out that opsins had a mechanosensory role before they had a role in vision. And now we found out that the chromophore is not needed for that. But funnily enough, all the proteins that would restore and scavenge and fold the chromophore are needed for mechanosensation. So all of these proteins that are strictly involved in vision are now also involved in mechanosensation.
Huh.
Which was quite surprising and worth publishing.
So how do you know that evolutionary it was in mechanoperception first and then in visual perception?
First of all, it's believed that in the literature that mechanosensation is evolved before there's photoreception.
Okay.
But in this particular case, it's so that we find a certain type of rhodopsin that actually belongs to a certain type of neuronal receptor in a different type of neuronal receptors. And those two types, so type A receptor has a different rhodopsin than type B receptors, and we find a type A rhodopsin and a type B sensor. And these two types split up millions of years ago at the time when animals became mirror symmetric. So it's ages old, definitely before there were eyes.
So does that mean that maybe in animals that are not arthropods, like insects and other crustaceans, etc., we have the same proteins, but they're not used for vision?
Exactly. So we find rhodopsin in many other senses. Like we find it in hearing, we find it in mechanoreception, we find it even in heat sensation. And we found that it has more of a cell maintenance role. It actually repairs the membrane of the cell. And that explains why you find it also, for example, in the vertebrae of mammals. There's never going to be light in those neurons in the vertebrae, but there's rhodopsin there. But it's there just for its membrane repair function, not for light sensation.
Interesting. So what does the chromophore do there?
The chromophore doesn't do anything. It doesn't help in the repair function. And that's what we found out. It's only the apoprotein opsin that actually plays a role there.
Okay. Interesting that it would have a chromophore if it's not needed for anything.
No, it's just not. So we also found that it's basically the chromophore is not synthesized there. It's not needed for anything. For the more cellular inclined scientists about you, the apoprotein has a flipase function where it can actually flip phospholipids through the membrane and thereby repair the membrane.
Okay.
Do you want to know why this comes to pass? You look like it, but more like Dennis wants to know what's going on.
I want to know everything, but that would be the whole episode, I guess.
Yeah, but at the end, it was quite fun. It was a good project. It turned out to be quite fruitful and in fruit flies, and that was pretty nice. Then they needed a nice picture of a Drosophila, and so I made one, and I was pretty happy with that. And they even picked it for the press release.
Oh, cool.
Unfortunately, the press actually didn't take it and put other photos in there, but I found it pretty nice that the Uni at least did it. Yeah, that would be a good cover photo for our episode. It's a really nice Drosophila.
Okay.
On Twitter, I saw there's a new homepage where you can actually put up your pictures and graphics for free so that other people can use it for lectures and whatever need in science.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a pretty good idea. And it's a Twitter account. Maybe we can link it in the show notes. So coming from publications in the Elsevier journal,
oh no,
Current Biology, to the Open Science episode. And
right.
I have to admit, in the beginning of this show, Dennis asked me what's my take on Plan S, and I answered, like many people did, seemingly, to Dennis, what is Plan S? So, Dennis, would you mind introducing me and the listeners to whatever Plan S is?
Right. So Plan S. So we can go through the principles. They're on their website, and I will just read them to you. With effect from 2021, all scholarly publications on the results from research funded by public or private grants provided by national, regional, and international research councils and funding bodies must be published in open access journals, on open access platforms, or made immediately available through open access repositories without embargo. And with embargo, they mean that there should be no time between publishing behind a paywall and then it becoming open access or available, because that's what they have in the United States. A lot of so the United States also has a rule that the publications that, for example, the NIH funded need to be made available online for free. And this is why for many articles, you can go on PubMed, for example, and download a free version of the article. And the publishers made a deal that many of them who are not already open access have an embargo time, so they will keep the article behind a paywall for a couple of months. I think the maximum is 6 months. So, and that is not allowed according to Plan S.
But is this already in fact, or is this their target or their goal to achieve?
So I think they want to just implement it, and because they are some of the main funders, they can certainly just make it part of their funding requirements.
But I think that I saw a lot of ERC grant results being published in classical high-ranked journals that are not open access.
Well, it's not 2021 yet, right? So Plan S is supposed to be in effect till from 2021.
Uh-huh.
And that's
Why
also
is this always the case that all these measures are like 2 years or 5 years in advance? I guess because you have already made the funding agreement and it wasn't part of the clause, and now you can't put it in afterwards and stuff like that.
Yeah, it might be also because the ERC, for example, has these funding epochs of 7 years. And right now we are in the Horizon 2020 program, and 2021, the next program will have started. So that could be a reason.
Okay, second question.
Also, you want the community to be able to talk about it, right, and discuss it.
That would have been great if they had any kind of social awareness campaign for that.
Yes, I absolutely agree with that. So if you're
Maybe
on Twitter,
hire somebody with who does science communication or something like that.
Yeah, hire me. I would do that. So part of this open access stuff is, for example, that the authors keep the rights. The funders will develop robust criteria and requirements for the services that high-quality open access journals, platforms, and repositories must provide. So they're still in the phase where they chisel out the details of it, right? They made these principles, and now they're still working on the details. As far as I can see, for example, they're just fine if you put it on a preprint server
or on Sci-Hub.
Yeah, I think the point is to make Sci-Hub unnecessary. They want to find ways to establish new open access journals or platforms where necessary, and they want to provide infrastructure for that. Open access publication fees are covered by the funders or research institutions, not by the individual researchers. I think this is a really important part because that is one of the big problems that I think are understandable, because open access is more expensive to the authors if they have to pay it. So if they don't get the extra funds that they have to invest into open access publishing from somewhere else, that could be prohibitive for some not too well-funded labs. Do you think for you is publishing open access so expensive that you really have to think about it twice?
So I definitely would think about it twice if the University of Göttingen wouldn't have an open access fund.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so if I publish open access, the uni and the library are paying for that. And they did so for the last 8 years. But except of that, this would be definitely a thing I have to think about because I have quite limited funds. And as a neuroethologist, I don't need so much money to actually do my science. Like it's nothing compared to a wet lab with like all the kits and plastics and consumables that they have. But that's really a point. So if you want to publish open access, the publication fees are complicated to handle for many labs, I would say.
Right. Yeah.
In Germany, it's not that bad because like the big labs have a pretty high budget a year and can easily pay that. But I guess if you're a small lab or an upcoming scientist, it's
right. Now, I remember there was an open access fund in Bielefeld too. So these are already two universities that I know that have one in Germany. I don't know. Do you know if there are more universities that have open access funds from the libraries?
I think there's more because there's a group of universities that actually invested into that, but can't tell you which or how many it is.
Yeah, okay. They do not support the hybrid model of publishing, but they think that as a transitional pathway towards full open access, there could be transformative arrangements or something like that. I think this is a cop out. I think this is not a good thing. They should just say no to hybrid models. The funders will monitor compliance. It's not said how this will be sanctioned if you don't comply. Obviously, they didn't think about that yet. And the final principle is the funders commit that when assessing research outputs during funding decisions, they will value the intrinsic merit of the work and not consider publication channel, its impact factor, or the publisher, or other journal level metrics.
Cool. How are they going to implement that? Because normally they just use, like everybody else, some scientists that are then referees of the grants, the review process.
I guess you're not allowed to say out loud that that's what you're basing your decision on.
Oh yeah.
I mean, this is all they can do, right? This is all they can do. I think it's important to say it out loud that they don't want that. I mean, what else can they do?
They could come up with better metrics for their shit. I mean, they are the biggest research funding body in the world, and they still have not come up with any metric for science.
Well, I don't think there is a good one. I think actually reading the papers of your applicants should be part of the thing and not just going by publisher. I don't think there is any way to monitor it.
No, I think there's a way to monitor that. We haven't found it yet, but there must be a better way to monitor this. I mean, I don't spend all my day thinking about like ways to monitor scientific output, but I spend all my day wondering how animals work.
Right.
So I find all kinds of new quantification methods to figure out how an animal behaves. So it must be not so fucking impossible to think about like how scientists work and how good science is achieved. There must be some sort of like liberal arts major out there who thought about that.
Yeah, for example, the guy that I interviewed for the Altmetrics episode, everybody go listen to that, as well as to the Impact Factor episode and the Open Science episode that I did. They're all relevant to this discussion.
No, but at the end, it always breaks down to this point where we say like, all right, now, and then we don't want scientists to be judged by their papers. We want to judge them by fill in blank here.
Right. So the point is, and I think this is why they write that they want the decision to be the intrinsic value and merit of the work that is submitted. They want people to actually read the papers. They do not want people to go by a metric, because if you introduce a metric, the metric can be gamed, right? Then you can start gaming about it. We talked about that in the Altmetric episode, because obviously it's so altmetrics, a lot of the ideas for altmetrics, so alternative metrics, are based on online data, right? And as all online data, you can game it. You can ask all your buddies to click like on your Facebook post, etc., right? And in a similar way, you can fudge numbers for research merits. Or metrics. So it's really hard to find, I think, a metric that would do what we all want it to do.
Okay, but then you're at the point where you say everybody has to be reviewed by somebody who's at least partly able to understand the applicant's science.
Yeah, I know. It's terrible.
Now that's going to be hard.
Well,
to find people that can do that.
I mean, look at...
So and they're able to judge, to say, like, I have 5 million euros. I have to give them to these 3 people in some coordinated fashion. And I want to fund the best researcher of that.
Right.
How am I going to do that? Especially at a very high level.
Supposedly, all the committees are made of the most excellent researchers in the fields. So the point, I mean,
but in the end of all these discussions, maybe we can cut the segment down to like 2 points in this discussion. At the end of all these open access discussions, and at the end of all these, how do we do science? How do we assign money? How do we give people a fair chance for a career, etc., etc., etc.?
Unending topic.
We come to the point where we say, like, what's the metric here? And you need some sort of objective metric. I agree that it then becomes gameable, like all numbers are. But in the absence of it, it's going to be things like the impact factor.
So if you want to learn more about Plan S and Coalition S, the website is coalition-s.org/principles-and-implementation if you want to learn what we just read to you. There is a war between German research institutes and Elsevier about prices. A lot of institutes in Germany decided to simply not extend their subscriptions to with Elsevier. And now Elsevier is still trying, obviously, to get data to make the point that, the poor German scientists and researchers who aren't able to reach Elsevier publications and services anymore, this really impacts their research and everything is terrible. So they made a survey.
Did they already implement the blog?
Yes. You didn't notice?
No.
And neither did the 30,000 researchers they asked. which is the funny part. So here we go. Let's talk about this. So they have this survey and they say, this is totally negatively impacting German science, that they cannot use Elsevier anymore.
I'm going to check if my university blocks Elsevier.
Yeah, you should check that.
Oh, wait, we are blocked from Elsevier.
You're blocked? See, there you go. So the thing is, Elsevier had a survey done, and they tried to reach 30,481 researchers, and only 363 thought it would be worth replying, which means they have a response rate of 1.19%. In other words, more than 90% of people just don't give a shit. Then they asked a couple of things, and then so they have a couple of questions. For example, the question, there is a sort of network among friends which normally keeps me informed about recent developments, but there may well be papers which are not found without my searching. And less than 50% of people agree with that. So a lot of people don't think they need Elsevier to help them find papers.
How would Elsevier help me find papers?
They have this service, what's it called? Web of Science? It's not called Web of Science anymore. I forgot. They have a database that you can use.
I hate to break it to Elsevier and the rest of the world, but just use fucking Google Scholar.
I know, right? So it's Science Direct. Science Direct is the service.
Oh, yeah. I never used that.
Yeah, me neither.
And I guess I also never heard of it. I think it's like basically a homepage that I click through if I want to have the PDF.
Right. Yeah. So they did get a majority for if I'm not able to get the latest literature, I equally am not able to do any efficient review or publication.
I mean, I would agree on that on a general basis. If I have no access to publications, I can't publicize myself.
Yeah, quite obvious.
But again, Sci-Hub
Yeah. Yeah.
is an internet homepage with unlimited access to a lot of limited access papers.
Right. So 76% of these 300 something said they wanted Science Direct reinstalled, the access to it, which is a lot. But, come on. If you say, oh, you can have access or not, you say, sure, I want access. Just give me access. Give it to me. Because at the same time, they still want the demands of their institutions met. They want all the stuff, but not if they have to pay for it. And this is their own
I think it's not
data,
that they don't
right?
want to pay for it. I think it's they want to pay at least a fair price for it.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, sure.
It doesn't have to be free. I totally agree on that. It would also be nice if the publishing houses would offer some sort of service for the money that they actually get. So, like proper setting of the paper or doing something except of just telling me that they think there's a commenter error there and I have to figure it out myself.
So basically, what this whole spiel here is showing, this whole farce, is that first nobody cared to even respond, and the few people that respond, oh no, there's actually like some of them think it was they needed Science Direct for something, and I mean that's obvious, right? If you are Elsevier, you ask around, oh, would you want to respond to this survey for Elsevier? Then mostly people who are actually using these services will respond because they care. But most of those even said it doesn't really matter.
Let's come to something where we have a positive progress report to report.
Right, yeah. So this is just a quick mention. You hopefully all remember the episode that I did on the Energiewende. I was talking to Rüdiger Eichel, who is one of the leading scientists in Germany working on power to X technology. You take renewable energy and use it to create fuels out of CO2 that you can take out of the atmosphere. And the goal is to put that into chimneys, for example, because there's the most CO2, and then you can extract the CO2 from the emissions and create fuels from it. And it would be a great way to store power in times where you have excess renewable energy. As you know, when there's a lot of wind or a lot of sun, then we might be producing more electricity than we need. And that is the time during which we could use methods like this to store the energy in a different way. And these fuels could be used in certain parts of the economy where you cannot use electricity directly. And in Karlsruhe, where there's another Helmholtz Institute, they started to test the first machine that can do that. So there's the Karlsruhe Institute of Technology, and they have an outdoor machine that looks more or less like a container with a lot of high tech inside, and it's producing power to liquid, making gasoline or benzene from air with electricity and water.
That sounds fantastic.
Yeah, I think it's super exciting. Professor Roland Dittmeier seems to be the coordinator of that project. So yeah, this is awesome stuff. We might have kerosene for carbon neutral flight in future.
So what's going to be the next episode about?
So the next episode I will be talking with Chinmaya Zadangi. He is Indian and he studied in Germany, and right now he's in Canada, and he founded The Addictive Brain. And they have a fantastic program, especially on Instagram, where every week they have a different person doing a 1-hour live video where you can ask questions. So we will be talking about that.
Oh, did you do this once?
That's what I did once. Yes, you can
What
actually.
have you been asked?
So I didn't get any questions actually, so I was just talking. But I talked about the scientific research that I've done when I was still a researcher, starting with my undergrad research and then my PhD thesis and then the first postdoc. I actually am making 4 videos out of it that you can watch on my YouTube channel. You will find the summary of this episode and links for further readings in the show notes, alongside with a link to the complete conversation that is available to you if you are a supporter on Patreon. What do you think about mandated open access publishing? Did you know about Plan S? If you have questions, critique or suggestions, please get into contact by email info@scienceforprogress.eu or on social media @sci4progress for Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Please subscribe and rate this podcast on your podcast app and maybe write a review. I thank you very much for listening. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
I think we're missing some lifestyle part.
A lifestyle part?
Yeah, where you tell me like your favorite new series.
Before I shut Netflix down, there was a series that I actually watched the whole... I always binge watch everything, which is actually probably also good that I don't have Netflix anymore.
Was it something with dragons?
No.
And White Walkers?
No.
And people fighting huge wars? Because that was HBO and not Netflix.
Exactly.
Was it with small blue people? That
No.
Like one is very strong.
It wasn't.
The other one is a smart ass. Was it with a big car that jumps over the other things and a guy singing "I'm Looking for Freedom"?
No, it wasn't Knight Rider.
Okay, was it a different car? Guy still jumps over things, has a blonde and a nerdy guy with him, and they always hunt other people for money. He's a stuntman on his day job.
It's called Seavers.
Okay, is it about a black family that always has a weird guest with like big glasses that basically is like the prototype scientist at a young age?
Steve Urkel.
Is it a yellow family with a beautiful young boy, kind of nerdy sister, a baby, and a very stupid dad?
The Simpsons. Nope. It's called Another Life.
Okay, I didn't see that show. Bye!